Hey Math 8 students, this is Misty Witt from Creekside. Today I'm just going to be going over a review lesson that you have seen in your previous years of math, but we're just going to make sure everybody's caught up on how to do operations with integers. We'll start with addition, and I'm going to show you 3 different methods. The first method is using a number line. So for problem A, I'm going to take -4 plus 7 and I'm going to write it on a number line. I'm going to work it out on a number line. So if I have 0 in the middle, I'm just going to put positives to the right and negatives to the left. Make sure I have enough room for -4. So when we have the number, the expression -4 plus 7, what this means is that we're going to start at -4 on our number line. And we're going to travel to the right. The reason why we're going to the right is because this 7 is positive. If we have a positive number, we're going to go to the right. And if we have a negative number, we're going to go to the left. But in this case, we're going to go to the right because 7 is positive. So we're going to travel from -4 to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we land at +3. So the sum of -4 plus 7 is +3. That's one method. Number line works for addition mostly when the numbers are smaller, closer to 0, but it is one method that works very well. The next strategy we're going to try is using tile spacers. When we have tile spacers, what those are is when we have a positive, it looks like this. This is equal to 1 positive, and a negative is equal to 1 negative. So using tile spacers, I'm actually going to move this down a little bit. So let me do this. Not that. Do this again. Take this and just move it down a little bit. So when we have tile spacers, what I can do is I can take 3 negative tile spacers and 5 negative tile spacers, and I'm just going to add all of those together. So if I have -3 plus -5, I have 1, 2, 3 negatives there, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives. And if I'm adding those up, how many total negatives do I have there? I have 8 negatives. So the sum of the -3 and -5 is -8. So that's just another method using tile spacers. Again, it works with positives and negatives because you can make what we call 0 pairs. Anytime you have positives and negatives, those become 0. And you're left with 1. Okay, so the third strategy is using a 0 pair, and that really continues on for what I was talking about on the last problem. This strategy, I'm going to move all these guys down, takes the -18 and the +32, and it creates what we call a 0 pair. A 0 pair are opposite numbers, opposite integers, added together to create 0. So for example, -5 plus +5 equals 0. And you should have seen that in your 6th grade or 7th grade classes. So I'm going to take these two values, and I see a -18 and a +32. So as I'm looking at this, I can decompose 32 because I have a lot more positives here than I have negatives. So I could rewrite that 32 as +18 plus something. And I would need to figure out what 18 plus what is 32. How could I split up that 32 so that I have 18 and then what? So think about that for a minute. 14. So you're going to take the 32, and instead of writing 32, we're going to write it as 18 plus 14. Now, why didn't I use like 20 and 12? Why did I use 18? Well, the reason I used 18 was because this negative 18 and this positive 18 is my zero pair. So that whole piece becomes 0. And 0 plus 14, you don't have to do this step, but I want to show you the math, is just 14. Pretty cool, huh? So any of those three methods can be used. You have the number line method, you have tile spacers, which is also 0 pairs, and then you have using 0 pairs. It just really depends on what works for you and what makes sense to you. So what about when it comes to subtraction? Well, let me tell you about subtraction. The nice thing about subtraction is that subtraction is just addition. So anytime you are subtracting integers, all you need to do is add the opposite. And then you can go back up here and use any of these strategies for adding. So let's rewrite this expression of negative 14 minus 12. You're going to leave that first number alone. You're going to turn your subtraction into addition. And then we're going to take the opposite of positive 12. The opposite of positive 12 is negative 12. And then here, I like the tile pattern, the tile spacers for this problem because I have both negatives. So I have 14 negatives and I have 12 negatives. And if I put all of those together, I have a total of 26 negatives. Let's try it with another problem. So in this problem, we have negative 5 minus negative 7. I'm going to write this one underneath so you can see it a little better. So again, we're going to leave the first number alone. And then we're going to turn our subtraction into addition. And then I'm going to take the opposite of negative 7. So the opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. And again, you can use whatever strategy works. I'm just going to do a 0 pair here because 7 I know is just 5 plus 2. And then negative 5 and positive 5 become 0. So the sum is positive 2. Let's actually try one more. And this one more I'm going to call F. I'll write it right here. This one more has negative 3 minus 5 minus negative 6. So this has 3 different values or integers and 2 operations. But I can use the same strategy. So I'm keeping my first number the same. Negative 3 always stays the same. And then this becomes plus, the opposite of 5 is negative 5. And then plus, the opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. And there's a couple of different ways you could do this. I like that these are both negatives, so I'm going to add those together. 3 negatives and 5 negatives make 8 negatives. And then I like this because I have more negatives this time. So I know that negative 8 is just negative 2 plus negative 6. And I like that those are 0 pair because it makes it nice and easy for me to solve to get negative 2 as my final answer. Lots of fun stuff. Hopefully